Blown Up Concepts Episode 3, and today I had the privilege of hosting a dear friend of mine, Roi Bareket, that I met in a very weird way, but I'm of course glad we did, because otherwise he probably wouldn't be here today to share with us his knowledge in Android development, which is his daily job. Roi is full of experience and was even a senior developer and a team leader in a startup company called Jive, which was sold and made a very, very nice exit. Today, about 4 years later, the same guys from Jive opened a new company and Roi has joined them to bring the next exit. So we spoke openly about his job, about GPS, mobile location, which is our main blown up concept for today, and even got a bit off topic to some other interesting fields. I truly enjoyed having Roi here, and I hope you will enjoy our conversation as well. So that's it, blown up concept. People don't know how we met in a very weird way, actually, and I think we owe them the pleasure to hear about it, like as an introduction. What do you think?
Yeah, awesome. You wanna?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll tell them. So we were at the same time in Eilat, and for people who are not from Israel and listening to it, Eilat is a city, a vacation city, I guess you can say. And we were there at the same time without knowing each other. And I was in KSP buying a product for my mother. And you saw me, but we didn't speak at the time.
I saw the product. I didn't even see you.
Yeah.
Like I saw the product and I wondered, what are you buying? I've never seen something like that. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm not even sure what this product is, but it was something for her hair, like a hairbrush, a heating hairbrush. I don't know. Anyway, I went back to the hotel the same day, and I think it was the third day I was there, and I saw immediately, the first day I went there, I saw a huge grand piano, a beautiful one, a black one, and I love playing piano. I also have one at home, and I wanted to play it, but it was locked. So I went to the hotel's counter and I asked them every day to open it, please, very nicely. And they were like, I don't know, do you play good? We need to ask the manager. And they all, every day they told me, put your number here on the paper and we'll call back to you. Now, it sounded to me like, don't call us, we won't call you, something like that. Eventually, the same day we met, we didn't actually met, but
Yeah, but like-
that we were at the same place in KSP. They decided to, they told me, okay, you know what, let us call the manager, Lior Aviv, I think is his name, and they called him. I was standing there to make sure they are calling him, and he was telling them, he told them that they can open the lock, but only if, he told them, I have 30 minutes to turn up the lobby, turn on the lobby, like to bring a concert. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm not playing that good. You know, I'm just a hobbyist. They opened it anyway, and I played a song called Compten de Autre, if I'm saying it right, I think, which is the same song. This song is from, you know, La Emily.
Emily, yeah,
Emily.
it's the pianist in
Yeah,
English.
exactly. So it's a rebel French annoying child, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a shitty movie.
I love it. Actually, I love it. It's like
really?
one of the best.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
It's all good. Like the thing is that the only song like I know how to play is what you played.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like from all songs you could have played, you picked this one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I approached and like, oh my God, you know how to play the only song I know. So it was very exciting and I wanted to play also. But yeah, and then I saw this receipt from the shop, the KSP shop.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, it was you. and then like we synced the times and it was you, and it was like hilarious because what are the chances?
Yeah, exactly. And from there, like it's an history. We spoke, we grabbed a beer and we spoke at the lobby till night, I think, for a long time. And the next day, we went to a bar. And we decided before we went there playing pool, we decided to make a tattoo together.
Yeah,
it's
like a temporary tattoo. It's not a.
Yeah. It's called the henna. I don't know how it's called in.
Henna, yeah.
Henna? It's also called henna.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, we decided to make a joke out of it. So you chose me doing a tattoo says "I love mom" or something like that.
Yeah.
And you made a tat of Hello Kitty on your hand.
Which I love, by the way. I would have do it again.
No, but the funny part is that you were there for a diving course, right?
Yeah.
So you had to be without without the top, without the shirt, and people had to see it.
Yeah,
that is hilarious.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll put a link for people to see the picture of us.
Yeah, you should. You should. This is a great idea.
Yeah, it's awkward, but I think it's also very funny. People would love to hear about it. Anyway, that's how we met. And back to our conversation today, our podcast. Our blown up concept today is mobile location. And your daily job is an Android developer, right?
Right. So basically I write Android for like big companies in the last 9.5 years. I've seen a lot. I love it. This is like one of the best things like I love in my life is basically writing to Android. It's exciting, and it's exciting to see how much this topic can evolve like during the years. And the mobile development and Android specifically made huge progress in the last years, and it was like a lot of fun to actually see it and live through it. And yeah, like I would love to talk about location because it always seems like such a small topic, and then you find out once you start drilling into it how interesting.
Yeah,
it is.
So I can tell for sure to our listeners that you super love your job because I saw you let me see an app on your phone which you made it for your kid, right?
Yeah.
To learn the language,
yeah.
To learn Hebrew. So I don't know any father in the world who made an app especially for his kid.
Yeah, too much free time, I must admit. But yeah, it was awesome. And like he had photos there, and he could learn words, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds super cool.
Yeah, like he liked to play with it, and he liked to show it to friends sometimes, from time to time. And it's basically awesome, and it works. It's
You're
fun.
a very cool dad, I must say. But generally, people don't get how complicated it is to be an Android developer, right? For example, I remember you told me about when you rotate your smartphone and the picture, people take it as obvious that the picture just rotates if you move it from vertical to horizontal or vice versa, but they don't understand the complication, I think it's a word.
Complexity.
The complexity, thank you, to do it, because you have to shrink the picture, right? Then spin it, rotate it, and then increase the size.
So, yeah, so basically what happens is that mobile devices, when you rotate them, they recreate the screen, all like from scratch. This is why some apps may show you a different screen, like a completely different screen, when you rotate the screen, like to the side. But it's not just that. Like I can tell you that I thought exactly the same. So when I started to work as an Android developer, it was AT&T, and I was working there. I wasn't supposed to work on Android. I was supposed to work on something completely different. But then some changes were made, and basically I found myself in the Android development team. And I was like, it's such a silly device, like how complex can it be? I want something which has like like complexity.
Yes.
And then like I start writing and I found out that there's a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
And basically the resources are very limited. It's not like a computer, like a PC or a Mac, which has almost unlimited processes and like threads and whatever, and resources. It's mobile device, and if you work too hard with mobile device, it will get heat, and it will reduce the battery, which
so
is
how's the device?
Yeah, and
So
basically
you have to be very efficient.
it must be very efficient, and it's critical because then people will not use your app if you drain their battery.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to care, and I must say that Google made a very good job in helping us developers do that, because they saved us a lot of time by using their tools, which force us basically to be very efficient, which is really awesome.
Yeah, cool. So before we start, I think we have a beer here.
Yeah.
So I think we should grab one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It made the right noise. If it wouldn't make the right noise, like we would need to do it again. But it did make the right noise.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Before speaking about what a mobile location is, let's start by telling our listeners what is a GPS.
Okay, so it sounds obvious, basically, like GPS is supposed to tell you where you're at. Right. But it's not, because if you start to imagine how it works, it's not trivial at all. Like how would, like there is something in the space that basically somehow tells you where you're at the Earth.
Like magic.
Yeah, and we see it as a magic, but it's not. And we need to, like when you think about it, and you try to imagine it, it's not very trivial.
Yeah. You're right.
But let's talk about it. Let's say there is a dot up in the sky.
Okay.
A satellite, a GPS. And this satellite can send signals to Earth. And it sends signals all over the place. And let's say this signal basically says the time. And let's say that the time in the GPS, the satellite, and our time in our mobile device is precise. It's the same time exactly.
Yeah.
So the GPS sends a signal, and let's say that we are directly below the GPS, as close as possible to the GPS on the globe. So the signal travels all the way from space, all the way from the GPS, the satellite,
yes.
And it hits us. And when it hits us, it says like the GPS time, the GPS satellite says the time, and we receive it, and we have a different time because time passed since the GPS sent the signal, and when we received it,
right.
We know how fast the signal travels, from the one hand, and we know that our clocks are synced, so we can basically, like the travel times time equals distance, something like that.
Yeah.
So basically you can tell, okay, I know how far I am from the satellite. Now let's say that we are not directly below. Let's say the travel that the signal makes is slightly longer. Okay. So it's either be above me, like in the globe, like in the Earth, in the sphere, basically. It's either be above me, or below me, or from the left of me, or from the right of me. And if you try to imagine all the dots that it could hit, if the distance is slightly longer, you would draw a circle. And then, like if you have only one satellite, you can tell like a circle, like a ring, that basically my location could be on any of these dots on that ring. So basically I have infinite number of dots that I can be if I have one satellite. Yeah. Luckily, we don't have only one satellite. So back in the, 50s, I don't know when the Army of the United States created sent those satellites to space. But basically, the Army of the United States sent those satellites to space. Yeah. And he didn't send just one, he sent many. Yeah. So we usually don't get only one satellite signal, we get from multiple satellites. So if we get from multiple satellites, we can have more than one ring. So let's say we get 2 satellites. If we get 2 satellites and we do that math that you just said, you can draw 2 rings, one from each satellite.
Yeah.
And if you take those 2 rings into account and try to calculate your location, you would basically have 2 dots, basically, that you can be at. And those dots are where those rings touch each other. In order to know the exact location, you basically need a 3rd satellite to create a 3rd ring, and then you'll be able to know for sure, okay, this is where I'm at. So this is how GPS works. And
so it is like magic, and GPS is only one system of navigation. It belongs to the US, like you said, but there are many more. Like the Russians, they have the GLONASS, the GNSS. We have the Europeans who has Galileo, I think, and there are many more. Like the Indians has, the Japanese, the Chinese. There are many different types.
Yeah, you know why, by the way?
I think it's because of the defense forces or something, like the armies.
So basically, like let's say that everyone relies on the American GPS, and there's a huge war.
Oh.
And so they can just turn it off.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is that many armies want their own GPS.
Yeah.
And there is also companies who need to be very precise. So what they do, they send GPS satellites to space.
Yes.
But it's much closer than those satellites that the Army of the United States sends. So basically they can have more precise. They can be more precise.
You mean closer, like a shorter orbital radius?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But the disadvantage of this approach is that their lifetime is much less because they're closer to Earth, they're coming faster to Earth, and basically get burned in the atmosphere.
Yeah, physics is a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke about GPS, and generally what GPS sends, it sends signal, but what exactly it sends, there are three main things it sends. The first one is its identity, like the satellite's ID. That was the first one. The second one is the orbital radius from Earth's land. And the third one is the time, which is measured by atomic clock. Mm-hmm. Now, atomic clock is a very cool field, very interesting one, and it's much more accurate than a regular clock that we have on our wrist, because the way it is measured is by the change of electrons between energy levels. Okay, so I'll dig in a bit more for our listeners. An atom is basically made of a core, which includes protons and neutrons, and around the core there are mostly 8 stages, 8 tiers of energy, where the electrons of the atom are located. I think the first level includes the closest to the core includes 2 electrons, then 8. I don't exactly remember, and it doesn't really matter. Physics class was a long time ago, but generally the time it takes to an electron to move from one level of energy to another can be measured, and that is how an atomic clock works. And it's a very modernized way to do it, a very accurate thing to do. Now, each GPS satellite has his own atomic clock to make sure it's as accurate as we can. Because if you send the time, you might miss data or something like that, and the time won't be precise. And in GPS, to make a precise location, a precise fixed point, it's hard. And like you said, because of the distance, and there are much more things that control it, that change it, like the humidity, clouds, temperature, distance, like you said, if it's on the atmosphere, ionosphere, stratosphere, whatever, the orbital distance. So that's it about how cool an atomic clock is. Now, you spoke about the way we measure the distance.
Yeah.
So since any GPS satellite is at you always know it because it sends its location. You always know where it is, right? Now you know the distance, the orbital radius between the satellite and the Earth's land. You know the speed of light, and you can also measure the conditions of Earth, like clouds and stuff and everything. And eventually, you use a very basic, how is it called?
Formula?
Formula, yeah, which is x equals v multiplied by t. So it's distance equals speed, constant speed, by time.
Yeah.
So it's very forward. Like if I'm walking straight 10 meters per second, it's not possible, I'm not a bullet, but let's say I move 10 minutes per second and I do it for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So after 10 seconds, I will move 100 meters, right? Because I moved 10 meters per second and I did it for 10 seconds. So it's a very simple equation, and the GPS satellites do it. Now, you also talked about
It's our mobile devices that does it. Not the calculation.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's not the GPS satellite. Yeah. But the thing is that the GPS satellite knows nothing about you. So people sometimes are afraid that governments or whatever track their locations because they have GPS. No, they cannot tell their locations.
Yeah.
Because GPS is just one way.
Yeah,
they're just sending a timestamp and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It only transmits.
Yeah.
And you're the one who receives it, like your phone, and you calculate everything and do with it, manipulate the data, do whatever you want. Now, actually, it reminded me, sorry, I have to go off topic because the atomic clock reminded me a very cool field. Do you know what Lagrange K is?
Grand K? No?
Yeah. So I'll tell you why I'm asking, because I told you that measuring the time with an atomic clock is very special, very unique thing. And Lagrange K is the way people back in the beginning of the 90s, somewhere there, they decided to use, the French guys decided to say that 1 kilogram of mass is measured by a stick, a metal stick, which is made of alloy, out of platinum and iridium, and there's a reason why it made, why is it made out of these metals, and people around the world, they knew that the only way to know how much 1 kilogram weighs is by this Lagrange K, and it stays till today in a museum in Paris, and it's very funny because, you know, people used to, even Americans still do it. They use foot, miles, right? It's very old, very primitive way to measure distance.
Yeah.
Today we use centimeters, meters, kilometers, like the Greeks.
Yeah.
Centi, kilo is tens, thousands, and Lagrange K is made out of platinum and iridium because the people who made it wanted it to not react with the air, and not so it won't add to its mass or lose from its mass. Now, agree with me that Lagrange K is a very stupid way to measure kilogram, right? Because someone decided this is 1 kilogram and that's it, and everyone needs to know that if you want to measure 1 kilogram of mass, you have to use the Lagrange K.
Okay.
And back then, in the 90s, people had to, countries had to ask from the French, it's the commit, the international commit of measurements and weights in Paris. They had to ask them to someone come from Paris to, let's say, Israel, if we wanted to measure 1 kilogram, to come with a suitcase which includes the Lagrange K. They came over here to Israel, and we had to replicate it. Now, every country around the world had to do it in order to know how 1 kilogram of mass, how much.
Crazy, because before they just didn't know, they assume that something is 1 kilogram.
Actually, before that, they measured it. It was even more stupid. They, that people say, people say that 1 kilogram equals 1 liter of water. Mm-hmm. So it's not precise, not at all. And before,
it's not?
No, and it's very inaccurate, because you have minerals and stuff. But back then, before using the Lagrange K, people said that 1 kilogram equals to 1 liter of distilled water in a specific temperature and specific pressure of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Very stupid way. So, like I said, countries decided to replicate the Lagrange K, and eventually they didn't replicate it as precise as they wanted, and 1 kilogram wasn't 1 kilogram anymore. And we, the world, lived by using Lagrange K. It was also in the field of to measure 1 meter. There was Lagrange L length. So, like I said, it was very stupid, and only 2 years ago, and I'm telling you it because I read an article about it, I think it was a year ago or something like that, but only in 2019, which was 2 years ago, only 2 years ago, this international commit in Paris of
measurements,
masses and measurements and weights, I don't know what this commit is, exact name, but they only then decided to agree to measure the 1 kilogram differently. Now they use something with the Planck constant. It's a physical constant denoted by the letter H. It doesn't really matter, but I'm not sure, don't catch me on the word, but I think today, in order to know how 1 kilogram, how much it weighs, you need to put an electric force on an electron to move it 1 centimeter or some distance. I'm not sure about it, but today it's much, much more accurate. And only 2 years ago it has changed. How crazy it is, how primitive we were.
Yeah.
And how primitive Americans are that they still use feet, foot, miles instead of centimeters, meters, kilometers.
Yeah. I guess it's very hard to change it. I believe that they would love to change it, but all the effort that involves in changing those units is it's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I was too harsh with that.
You delay what you like. It must be made someday, but but it's a pain for them. It's obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you told us what a GPS is, and we do know that because we have some conditions we can't tell, like the weather and stuff, and the distance which is changing, we don't have a precise cutoff or fixed point it's called. We said that in order to have a GPS location in your mobile phone, you have to receive at least 3 signals from 3 different GPS satellites.
Right.
If you have 4, I guess you will have more accurate location.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that in order to calculate it, you make a geometric calculation, like you said, with circles or triangles. I think usually they use triangles, but I'm not sure about it. Mm-hmm. And only then you will have a precise number. But you said that the government controls it, and it's not very accurate, right? You have an error percentage of 5 meters or something like that?
Yeah, so as far as I know, but it's maybe belong to the past and it's irrelevant now. I don't know.
Okay.
I do I did hear that the United States Army created a gap, like an error basically, for 5 meters. So basically, you will not be able to tell the precise location if you rely only on GPS. Okay. So only the United States Army has the exact like the most precise results, and everyone else does not. But you told me it's different now. I don't know. Like I haven't heard about it, but if it is, it's awesome.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter if everyone knows right now that it's 5 meters.
Yeah.
Why would I, if I'm not I don't know, an army who sends a rocket somewhere? Yeah. Why would I care if I'm here or 5 meters away? Like, let's say I'm in my car and I want to go somewhere. It knows what is my path, right? It doesn't matter if I'm 5 meters.
So it's kind of cool on when you drive in your car. So you drive in your car and you basically look on the GPS and you're following a straight line, which sounds beautiful, but it's not the truth. So they are lying to you because they know where you're going. Yeah. They are placing you on that line, but your location is nothing on that line. Really? It's like it's all over the place. Like the accuracy can start when you open your GPS app. Yeah. Like let's assume that the device does not know where you're at. The initial location it knows is the city, and after like half a second, it can tell you like the area, like 20 meters a radius of where you're at, and it takes about 2 seconds to get something like 8 meters, something like that, and it usually stays there. And like they're just like taking a straight line to the path you're taking, and this is how they draw you like in a straight line.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that. Also, in your if you're using a smartwatch for running and stuff, because I know it's pretty accurate. It can tell you the distance you.
They would probably just put you on the road that you're at because they're assuming that you're on the road, but it's not accurate. Like usually when you look on, if you open Google Maps, you would see like a blue dot where they assume you're at, and you would see a circle around you. And the reason that you're seeing a circle is because they have no idea where you're at inside that circle. Yeah. This is the accuracy they know.
Yeah, like the other percentage.
Yeah, and usually it's pretty big. Like you take a look at it, and it's pretty big. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You said that the US government did it on purpose, right?
Right.
But I'm not sure. I just read about it. But I think that ever since George Bush II, he decided to change it after. I think Clinton was the one who agreed to do what you said, but after George Bush II, I think they changed it, and it became like free to use and more accurate as far as it is. Like, there's no difference between if I will use it or the US government, the US Army.
Yeah.
I think.
I do know that it was locked, like globally, and then on some time, like they open it globally to everyone.
Okay.
The precise, like how precise it is, as far as I know, it is not supposed to be precise. Maybe I'm mistaken. Like I know it like it was quite sometimes since I've heard of it. But I don't know. If someone is really interested, we would love to know. Like please Google us and let us know.
Yeah, guys. Maybe work a bit and tell us what you think if you know more about GPS and stuff.
Yeah, but like one of the coolest things that like after I was working on GPS, I noticed like a few things, and it came from the code. Like I was looking at the code, and I've seen all sort of stuff. For instance, I wanted to. There was one time I was working on an app. And basically this app used to have a camera, like an external camera, Wi-Fi camera. And basically we were supposed to connect to this camera and take photos. Sounds cool. We wanted to find the camera from inside the app. And then we look on the permissions that we need in order to look for this Wi-Fi camera.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, we noticed that it requires us location permission. Location permission to find the Wi-Fi camera. Like, what the fuck? And more than that, we had to explain our users in some weird UI, and I had to explain the UI specialist like a fuzzy explanation of why the hell do I need the location permission in order to find a Wi-Fi camera?
Yeah.
And the reason is that if you know basically the permission is not GPS. The permission is location. And location is basically subset of all the ways you can have in order to get location. And you can get location apparently from Wi-Fi as well. Like if you know all the Wi-Fi around you,
yeah.
you can basically tell where you're at, because back in the, I don't know, 2000 and something, Google car was driving all over the world, and basically they took pictures of everything, but they also took all the Wi-Fi routers out there,
yeah.
all their identity. And basically, if you tell me what Wi-Fi's you have around, and what is the signal strength of those Wi-Fi, I can tell you where you're at. Because once upon a time, Google car was passing there and he saw those signals and those router names, and basically I can locate you in Google Maps, basically.
Wow. So they work like the Wi-Fi routers, the routers, they work exactly like GPS satellites. Eventually you make a calculation to measure your precise location. Exactly.
And now try to explain our users why you need a GPS permission in order to find our Wi-Fi camera.
Is it even legal? Like, isn't it like you follow your client, your user?
Well, clients are being followed like all the time. They are not aware of it, but they do. For instance, on Facebook.
But can they sue you?
What?
Like, can they sue a company, an app development company for it? Or
for what?
For following them, or are
they are agreeing the terms of service. Did anyone read the terms of service? I've heard there is an urban legend there, where on some company, I believe it's true by the way, on some company that inside the terms of service, he wrote that if anyone would read this line and tell me, he would win like $10,000. Okay. And like it took a few years until someone actually read it and like followed it, and like won this prize. I don't know if it's true, but it is so true, like as how human act. No one reads it, and because no one reads it, you can say whatever you want there. So you basically
you can tell them you owe me like $1 million.
Yeah, and it's valid. South Park did a whole chapter about it.
Really? I haven't saw it.
Yeah, like when I think Kenny basically, I don't know, didn't read the terms of service of a company. I don't know if we can tell the company name because so they want to sue us, but yeah.
Let's keep it.
A fruit company.
Okay. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's called location, and basically, if you have the location, you have access for Wi-Fi's around, basically. Mm-hmm. So basically, what devices do is look on the Wi-Fi around, and they look on the GPS signals. But it's not just that. For instance, you also have the signal of the I think it's LTE called. It's the satellite, not satellite,
the cellular.
The cellular, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the cellular tower. Because if you know the strength from you to the cellular tower, you can also draw a ring of where you can be. So it also helps for calculating the location. Now, mobile devices, like mobile apps, does not need to know about this calculation. So everything here is being made by Google, basically, or by Apple. They do all those measurements. They take all the possible inputs of distance and stuff, and basically give us pure location. Now, back at I think just before Android 5, so it's something like 5 years-ish, maybe 4.
Where do we stand today? which version?
Today we are 11 or 12, I think.
Oh.
But I'm not sure about the 5 when I'm thinking about it, like out loud. But yeah, it's supposed to be something like 5 years, I guess.
Okay.
There was an Android version that basically they did a very cool thing. So up until then, when an app wanted to have a location, it needed to query the device. Okay, tell me the location, and then it would calculate all the things we just said. It would calculate the GPS, and it would start receiving the GPS signals and measure it, and the LTE and the Wi-Fi round and whatever. And then it would provide the GPS signal.
Yeah.
And they noticed that many apps need this data. So if every app, by the way, need this data in like a certain time. For instance, you can listen to your location inside an app and tell the OS, listen, give me the location every 5 meters or every 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. Like 5 meters of distance if I'm traveling.
Yeah, it's called beacon, like you send once in a while.
Yeah, and this data can be shared between different apps. And up until then, they didn't share. And basically, what happened is that every time an app wanted to have location, it needed to trigger a whole set of actions. And today, Google basically share inside the device, they share a location between multiple apps. And then whoever asks the location, if the device has the location, it would provide it. Whoa. So it's much more efficient. Like the Android basically become much more battery aware around Android 6, 5, 6, something like this. Mm-hmm. And they're making really good progress about it because this is one of the things they're doing. They also do like one of the best things like that they do, for instance. It's also similar to that. So back then, when you wanted to have a login and then receive a code via SMS, mm-hmm. So you would basically, it sounds trivial, ask for permissions to read SMS.
Yes.
But Google does not want, like, I wouldn't want some random app to have permission to read my SMS. It's very violent. It's like, why should they have this permission?
Why some Indian has to read my SMS?
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's awesome that you want to do it and make it sleek and everything, but it sounds very violent. I have no better word for that. So today, when apps want to have to see an SMS for incoming message. Yeah. Back then they must have permission. Today they don't. And you wonder, how can they don't need permission to read SMS? Yeah. And it's very nice. Google actually thought about it. And everyone has Google Play app installed on their device.
Oh, I can't believe it.
And Google Play basically read their SMS because they have permission. It's pre-installed on most devices. And they read the SMS and then they tell the specific app, listen, you just received an SMS. So the app is being told by a different app that has permission to read SMS. Yeah. We are okay with it because it's Google Play. It's like it's their operating system. Yeah. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, they act like a third party.
Yeah, and it's really nice because they are making the app much more secure, and they're making the app.
Nice is the right word. It sounds like a dangerous world. Like you don't want it to happen.
Why? Sometimes. You do want it to happen. You trust Google. If you can't trust Google, don't install Android. But it's their operating system. I'll give you an example. Okay. So today you have so we have Waze. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Waze basically gives us a location and they tell us where the traffic is. Back then, Waze before Waze was bought by Google. Mm-hmm. Waze they knew where there is traffic because they have their users who send them their location, and this is how they know if there's traffic. Mm-hmm. But Google Maps, it works different. Google Maps, how can they tell if there's traffic? Every device, like every Android device, sending Google their location. And basically Google can know on every device. It's irrelevant if they have Google Maps open or not.
Yes.
They can tell the location, they can tell the progress of whoever at wherever.
Like even when my location on phone is turned off.
No, if the location on your phone is turned off, I believe they don't do that.
I'm not sure.
I believe. I'll tell you why I believe, by the way. I believe because it's the risk is that some malicious app would work as if they were Google. So this is why I think that when you turn location off, it really is turned off.
Okay.
I don't think that they would mess around there because it involves too much of a risk. If you have a backdoor, this backdoor would be open someday.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing it, but there are many people who just open their GPS and traveling around and do whatever. But in the background, Google is running because this is their operating system.
Yes.
And while they are there, they can do whatever they feel like. And then, like after some time, you get like every time to time, you get a timeline of all the places you were at.
Yeah, you're right.
And how do they do that? They do that because they always send their location,
Yeah,
like your location.
It freaks me out, you know, like I was in the shop mall or something like that, and then I go home, and then my phone asks me, how was it in in the mall you were in? And I was like, what the fuck, how do you know it?
Yeah, they know everything, but it's okay because they don't really care about you. They know your identity. They want you to keep on using their products, and they give you a better experience. They don't know that it was like they can know, but they don't really care about if it's you specific, Yuval.
Okay. Yeah, but they do have the data. They know my information. They know my location, and let's say like you have to trust them because if you at some point someone hacks them, I don't know, somehow, and they get your information. You put all your information there. You trust them completely blindly, and you can lose your data and your freedom. You already lose your freedom when you use while you're using a smartphone. But I'm not sure if it's a very complicated question.
Yeah. Well, look, Google basically gives developer like hackers. They give them money, like bounty for hacking them. So basically, they go and they tell the developer, look, try to hack us. If you manage to hack us, you can get prizes, and some of the prizes are very high. Like if you find a big hack on Chrome, you can get a lot of money.
Yeah,
like
actually, we spoke about it in my previous podcast. I spoke with someone his daily job is malware and cybersecurity, and he told us that there are hackers which are called gray hats. They between like grays between black and white, and they are like the good guys, but they're working with organizations, I think, and they try to hack. I'm not sure if maliciously, but they try to hack and find vulnerabilities, and they get paid for it. So that's exactly, I think, what you described.
Yeah. And sometimes you just get an email and like someone just tells you, listen, I hack your system, pay me this and that. And basically I will tell you how did I hack.
Oh,
like I worked in a company that they actually received an email, and usually those hackers has a website or something that basically says who else did they hack. So you can verify, because like anyone can just say like I hacked Microsoft, but they're like having contact people basically on Facebook or on whoever they hacked into.
Yes.
That basically confirms that they did that or not.
Whoa.
Yeah. Otherwise, you would just send someone like money and then you disappear, which can of be like,
Yeah.
annoying.
Cool. So I think we spoke about everything. I think our listeners now know a lot about mobile location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not GPS.
I think this is the end, isn't it?
I believe so. It was a lot of fun having it. It's the first time I'm doing it, by the way, and like I'm having great fun. So thank you for
Sure. I'm glad to do it. Thank you for coming. And you know, I always feel like it's my first time, even though I've done it a few times, and it was a really pleasure. So thank you for coming and share your knowledge. And till next time.
Till next time. Thank you for the bill.
Sure. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.